guys, what's up? I'm back with my recap and review for P-Valley. This is going to be kind of a two-parter between season 2, episodes 6 and 7. And the only reason why I'm doing that is because I failed you guys. Yes, I failed you guys again. And I want to say that episode 6, Savage, was probably it was by far the most moving, thought-provoking, pivotal episodes that we've seen on this season so far, at least for me. We definitely I want to throw out a trigger warning because we are going to be talking about, I'm sure you guys have seen it by now, the episode, if you're watching this review, that there were some elements that can be definitely triggering for some individuals, along the lines of, violence and as Bondi Blue would say, unaliving oneself. So I just want to throw that out there for you all. But like I said, I wouldn't feel right just going on to last night's episode, which is episode 7. Got my notes right here. I wouldn't feel right going forth with that if I didn't at least talk about some of the things that happened in episode 6. So without further ado, my name is Janice or Barb, but just don't call me Janice or Barbara, and let's get into it because I don't want to be on here dragging it on forever. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, guys, so in episode 6, we saw that it began right with Diamond and Big Bone. They was getting it in, honey. They was getting it in just like how they probably do in real life, okay? They were getting it in, and it all kind of ended in, we see Diamond is not careless about his seed. We see that, he is a very grounded individual. But I kept saying, something is up with Big Bone. Either she's Montavious' niece, distant cousin, she down with the clique, whatever it is. Because after they got done fucking, when she saw, sorry, my eyelash, when she saw the ring, Montavious' ring on the table or whatever, she went right for that. And it's like, okay, there was so many other different artifacts in Diamond's place. Like, it's like, why'd you go straight to that? So anyway. We also had a very intense scene with Keyshawn, and I say intense because she actually tried to make an escape. It was a failed escape, but she tried to make an escape where Derek was going to go help somebody with something, whatever. And he had the nerve and audacity to ask, does she want to come after he done blacked her eye for the umpteenth time? He thought it was okay to ask her if, she wants to come or whatever. And she's like, nah, whatever. So he leaves. She picks up the kids, grabs the gun out the vent, the wall, the air duct vent, whatever, and grabs the gun that Autumn gave her last season. And she leaves the phone because she don't need him tracking her, of course. Goes outside, puts the kids in the car. The whole time I'm like, oh my God. Ooh, Derek's crazy ass gonna come out of nowhere. He didn't. But she did not get to make her escape, y'all, because, of course, Derek took the car battery out of the car. Like, how fucking crazy can you be? Like, and at first I was like, I know it takes, I think the statistics show that it takes a victim of domestic violence, don't quote me on this, a minimum of at least like 7 times before they actually make their escape. So if, I'll have to give her kudos for at least knowing, like, hey, finally getting to a point where, like, hey, like, something's got to stop with this. Like, I can't live like this forever. However, I was like, shit, if I was her, like, once I say I'm out, like, there's no coming back up in that house again. I would have been on flight out. I would have been gone. So, and we see later on, Derek come home, and she was literally pointing the gun at the door, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it. And I'm like, okay, this isn't the last that we're going to see of this. Like, I really do feel like her mind is made up, but maybe perhaps with the help of Autumn, she'll actually be able to stick it and be out of there once and for all. And she might even have to take Derek out. Oh, well, we don't give up. Anyway, so we also had gotten a scene with Whisper and Roulette, and we've kind of been seeing this whole time that people kind of like put them against each other, or you know, they're kind of like the headliners lately. They decided that they were going to do this spades tournament, didn't even tell Uncle Clifford or anybody. But we see that, I forget what his name is, but old dude that gave Roulette a stack to, you know, him off in an episode or two ago, he wants Whisper now. And this is kind of where we're introduced to some of the elements along lines of featureism, colorism, what have you throughout the scene, because he is willing to, now he set his sights on Whisper, and he's willing to double that. I think, how many, 2 stacks, however much money it was, if he could, you know, sorry. But, and Roulette was kind of like, well, damn, like, that was off. Why wasn't that offer on the table for me? And it's kind of like, I don't know if it's because Whisper has the quote unquote exotic look, whatever it is, but for whatever reason, he's willing to blow up an even bigger bag on her, and Roulette notices that. And at first I was kind of like, is she gonna do something like sabotage her or something like that? Because we know we can't completely trust Roulette, okay? But I don't know if she was doing that or trying to just honestly look out for her welfare or whatnot, because we see after the night is ended that she actually sticks around to see, you know, the conclusion of what Whisper and this dude had going on or whatever. I guess she's trying to see if she was safe or not. So, and then her and Duffy got a kiss and all that. That was really it, I want to say, that we got from her. She said, I'm a hodo. It's like, well, at least the girl is direct, okay? And Duffy came back and said, well, I'm a hoe too, so what's up? Period. Mercedes and Coach. First of all, it's Farrah. And it's Farrah because Farrah got, I'm not going to say she blew Mercedes' bag, because at the end of the day, we're all in charge of our own shit. And Mercedes, if she even had a slight inkling that this wasn't gonna be cool with Coach, she should have got up and got the book, okay? But she didn't do that, and she's over there, and they're on the couch, and Farrah's trying to, you know, get her a little feel and stuff, and she's like, you know, chill out. Long story short, they go in the room, they get it in, and Coach backs away because he's like, something's going on here. I know when 2 women have been, you know, getting down, and he's not here for it. He's pissed off. He tells Mercedes she gotta go. She's like, what about my 40 stacks? And he's like, I'm not giving you shit, basically. And little Miss Farrah's gonna actually hand her purse, like, I'm sorry. Like, no, bitch. And something tells me this is the end of this. But I'm just like, oh my God. Like, but I'm like, Mercedes, you left too easily. I would have ramsacked that whole motherfucker. I wouldn't have cared. And that just shows you all of what you need to know about both of them at the end of the day. But that was really kind of fucked up to see. And I think that's pretty much it for the most part. But we do have to touch on the most devastating yet emotionally jarring scene, and that is, I'm not going to talk about Autumn and whatever his name is, Andre, because they wound up fucking for the first time ever, and I don't really care about. I'm kind of over, and I wouldn't be mad if they wrote her off. I'm kind of over like Andre and Autumn and stuff like that, and just that whole storyline. I kind of am. Let me know in the comments below if you feel the same way. But anyway, Teak and Murda, they kind of just, we saw a lot more of just them two. They finally got one-on-one. They finally got, like, you know, kind of like a date finally at the Hot Wing Castle. And like I said before, if you've seen the episode by now, you know that Teak unalived himself this episode. And unfortunately, it's kind of something that if you've been watching the season and stuff like that and been following his character and everything, you kind of probably, in a way, kind of saw it coming. But we didn't know what brought him to that point. We didn't know everything that we know now about his past, which is that he saw, you know, his mother snapped and killed his siblings when he was younger. The only reason why he escaped that is because he went and hid in the closet. And he was just having flashbacks of that throughout this episode, as well as just not really knowing his place in the world now. He felt as though, you know, there was no place for him anymore. Like, why is he here? His life should have ended back then. So, you know, I really love that he received so much love from the gang. They bought him a new car, you know, kind of welcomed him home and everything. And I think Murder kind of knew, like, he was going to be in his head, but obviously not to that caliber, that degree. Because he was like, you know, he was very persistent about spending the entire day with him, and he did. He was with him until his last moments, you know. And it really just tore me up. I think it was important, though, to have him on here and to be introduced to his character. It definitely gave us a lot more insight into how important it is to check on other people and to understand that the sensitivity behind mental health and mental health awareness and all of that. And they even had a really beautiful moment where they sat on top of the car and they just, you know, apparently that whole scene was ad-libbed, you know, they so fresh and so clean. Like, I love that. And Murder, you know, he tried to reassure him, but honestly, when someone's made their mind up to do that type of thing, there's really nothing that anyone could do. And Teak did offer, you know, his forgiveness about the situation, you know, because Murder said, you know, I fucked up real bad, like, you know, and he's like, it's forgiven. And there's just so much to say about that. But nonetheless, y'all, after that happened, Murder went to find solace, or, you know, whatever, in Uncle Clifford. And we kind of get more into that in this next episode that I'm about to get right into. But the final scene I want to say was little Miss Terica showing up at Mercedes' house with a positive pregnancy test. And with that, we're going to get right on into episode 7. Episode 7, y'all. Jackson. We start off with Ernestine. She is singing the house down. We know that the Pynk back in the day used to be her juke joint or whatever. And this whole entire episode, I don't think I mentioned it prior to this in my you know, just before, but she's having her bout with the vid. And I don't know, man. Y'all think she's gonna make it? I'm not even 100% sure if she's gonna make it or not. I don't know. You know, she does have some other underlying health issues. You know, she's diabetic. So I honestly don't know if she's going to make it through this, but she was literally hallucinating throughout this whole episode and literally riding the cusp of life or death, you know, and I hope she makes it through. But I don't know if it's looking too good, y'all. I don't know, but I don't want to have Miss Ernestine. Definitely not, because that's going to bring a whole other, anyway. We also saw at this moment Uncle Clifford and her mom down at the venue cheering on Miss Ernestine. It was a really nice moment. And did you see that someone was like stealing money out of somebody's pocket? I was like, oh my God, I love it. I love it. We also see this is all just dissolved by Haley, who walks in on Uncle Clifford. And this is when Uncle Clifford takes the time to give her a history lesson on, you know, how this establishment came to be what it was. And there's a lot of family history behind the Pynk, okay? Unfortunately, I would love to see, you know, Uncle Clifford pass it on to her children maybe one day, or just keep it a family, whatever. But it don't look like that's going to be what's going to happen. And I don't know if it's for the best or the worst, honestly, but if the cash flows ain't cashing, I don't know. But at the same time, I think they're better on better terms now because they realize they probably need each other at this point. So I guess we're going to see what it's going to do. But Miss Haley lets us know that she's sticking around until she gets her 10 million at the end of the day. You're not going to piss in my mouth and call it Kool-Aid. I was like, that one right there. Because that's exactly what she's been trying to do. Like, sugarcoat the shit. And we know why you're here. You're only here for one thing. And I'm glad that Uncle Clifford had to let her know, like, look, you're doing all this off this strength, off this energy to make something up for, you know, your daughter. But your daughter's gone. So, and I was like, that might have been the awakening that she needed to hear. But anyway, we see that Mercedes has been in her house the past couple of days with Terica. She's telling Shell how she, Terica wants to stay over here for a couple more days. And when I tell you she's pregnant, she's pregnant. And I also should have probably gave a trigger warning in the beginning about this because we are going to be talking and discussing about terminating pregnancies and all that goes with that. Throughout this episode, we were introduced to that element. Thank you, Miss Katori Hall. Which is very, 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 very spot on with what is going on in the world right now. With what is going on in the country right now, I should say. So basically, she wants to know what she's trying to do with the baby. And you can see, like, Terica, like, she literally doesn't know what she wants to do. She doesn't know what to do, how to do, what, like, she doesn't even know what the fuck. All she knows is she wants some damn ice cream from TCBY. So that's what Mercedes says she's going to go do. She's going to go take her to, let's get in the car. Let's go to TCBY. And so, yeah. Did they ever make it there, though? I mean, they do, but they go through a little bit to get there. Meanwhile, Murder's still at Ernestine and Clifford's house. And he's just kind of mourning and reflecting on all of what happened, which rightfully so, of course. And I'm glad that he's not like bottling up his emotions completely and is definitely not putting up like a wall or anything like that. Like, that definitely bothered him and was unsettling for him, and we kind of are seeing this play out. But he's there kind of looking after Miss Ernestine, and he feeds her some smothered pork chops, some Katie yams, some greens, some cornbread, even got some peach cobbler in the oven. I was like, okay, you can come over here and throw that in my kitchen if that's what you're gonna be cooking, child. I could go for all that and then a second plate, okay? But as he's feeding her, she's like, I smelled death. I smelled death on you that night. All that blood. And it's just like, we were instantly thrown back into that situation, right? Next thing we see Keyshawn, she's grocery shopping with Derek and the kids. And she sees Haley, bopping around. And she's like, hey, I gotta go over here and get some makeup for, this, how you fucked up my face. I need to go find some makeup to cover that. Fuck you, Derek, man. God. But Haley is basically like, you didn't take my advice, or you didn't, use that gun I gave you, whatever. And, Keyshawn's whole thing is like, it's not that easy. Like, I gotta go. Like, I'm just like, girl, no, stop running from it. Just let it happen. Just go. Just be out, get your babies, and go. But that's not the end of what we see between those two. Meanwhile, Uncle Clifford had returned home to find Murda, of course, taking care of Miss Ernestine, which is great. I think she calls him Lil Calculator at one point. That was real cute. But we're starting to see that they kind of are starting to mend their relationship, as well as, some apologies are kind of exchanged. And I really, really love that in this episode, Uncle Clifford is stuck to her guns and is like, I'm nobody's secret. Like, you're gonna have to, if you want me, you're gonna want me in my fullness. period. And I really think and I pray that Murder finally realizes this and knows that, you know, second chance around, you cannot just go into this thinking that you can just keep this hidden and all that. That's not fair to nobody. Like, and it's not even fair. It's nobody, including yourself. Like, live in your truth. And at one point in this episode, I think he said something along the lines of, you know, was it this scene? I'm not sure. I'll get into that in a minute, though. Meanwhile, Mercedes and Terica are in the car, and Terica is rapping WAP a little bit too hard, if you ask me, but okay. And they're in the car, and she sees them pass TCBY, and she's like, we're not going to TCBY, are we? Jackson, girls that go to Jackson, it's only for one thing and one thing only. And Mercedes look, what do you want to do? And I really love this episode for them, because we saw what was lacking between both of them as mothers and daughters and all of that throughout this episode. And I thought that was very, very much needed. So she throws up, and we could see that she's been receiving a lot of misinformation or lack thereof. And Mercedes like, you know, we had the sex talk. Like, she's like, all you said was stay away from nappy-headed little boys or something that only want one thing or something like that. And there's a lot more to that, because clearly maybe like, I don't want to say that. Never mind. But anyway, back with Murda. He's getting flooded with notifications because he hasn't been checking his phone. And he sees that Wody, Wody in particular called him 17 times, I think it said. And he calls him back, and Wody basically, it's like, in regards to Teak, that no one has came down to the funeral home to start making, on behalf of Teak, to make preparations, something like that. And Murda assures him that, gang's gonna make sure he's good and everything. And we know he's hurting bad. He's hurting bad at the end of the day about this. And I believe we're going to still continue to see that play out and how he regards things going forward, because I don't even think he's thinking about the music right now, nothing like that. He is just going through his own emotions and unpacking that. So after that phone call, he walks in on Uncle Clifford, and she's looking for him some change of clothes, because we know that he's been there, he's gonna need some clothes, obviously. And Cisco, fucking Cisco, remember that. But Uncle Clifford informs Murda, like, this is my first Gucci bag. And he was like, oh, so I think you always been like this? And Uncle Clifford's like, been like this? I'm Uncle Clifford. Who are you? And Murda responds, I'm what the world won't let me be. And that really resonated with me, specifically because it goes back to what I was saying previously, that I pray, wish, and hope going forward that he will move differently and be able to really live in his truth. And I think he knows that. He's fully aware of that now, at least, if he knows that he's about to have Uncle Clifford in his life. He knows, very much so, like, because they talk about it in this conversation, like, you're not gonna handle me like that. And he's like, oh, you kept all the postcards, what was your favorite one? And of course, Uncle Clifford's like, you look beautiful in red. And I'm like, oh, yes, they getting back on track, y'all, yes. Because it just shows that sometimes you can unintentionally hurt someone because you're living a lie. Okay, that doesn't just hurt yourself, that hurts other people around you and involved in that situation. That's not fair to nobody, as I said previously. So and she lets him know, you know, she was disappointed by his actions. And I think that sums it up. I'm sorry, y'all. It's like a little gnat. Anyway, she sums it up perfectly. But they are interrupted when Ernestine, they hear a noise and they're like, you know, Uncle Clifford's like, grandmother? Ernestine left the building, y'all. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, we'll get back into that. Meanwhile, again, Mercedes is, you know, she's still struggling, trying to just jump into, like, I'm pretty sure this is not how she wanted to be introduced into full-time motherhood. But I don't think there was a better person that could have taken on this role, obviously. She can clearly personally empathize with it. And when they pull up to the gas station or this diner or whatever, she has a flashback of when her and Patrice were in the same diner years and years ago. And we see that Patrice really never been shit, okay? And we see that the type of mother that Patrice was is the type of mother that on one hand is trying to pimp you out to this older man that was like eyeing Mercedes. And then because she didn't have enough money to pay for their meal or whatever. So Mercedes like, whatever, I got it. And she opens up her wallet. Patrice sees a condom up in there. And she's like, what is this? And, you know, Mercedes like, no, it's not like that. It's my boyfriend Cortez, you know. And Patrice starts beating the shit out of her. No one says anything or does anything. And we see that that's the type of mother she is. And I feel as though Mercedes is trying to mother Terica now from a different place, because she didn't like how that felt, okay? And I'll give her credit for that. I definitely will. And I think that was very much needed in this situation. We also find out that, you know, as a child or as a person in general, sometimes if you're lacking in a certain relationship or not getting the love that you know, need in a certain relationship, you will seek that in other places or whatever. And that's kind of what I feel like Terica was doing she clearly felt unwanted she just wanted to feel wanted. And this Keller, whatever his name is, boy, has made her feel wanted in a way that Shell hasn't been able to do. And honestly, neither has Mercedes. And I think the switch flipped for her in this episode once, and she was able to make the decision for herself in this episode once she started to receive, you know, that type of love and feeling, you know, wanted again. And that kind of helped her, I guess. We also find out that he wants her to keep the baby, but they go back and forth a little bit. It ends in a slap. They finally reach the clinic. There's protesters outside because, yeah, that's what anyone needs at that moment in time. Like, you guys, okay? And Mercedes sees another image of Patrice. And that's kind of, again, what was in the back of her head throughout this kind of the entire time of this episode, right? We find out that Miss Terica is 14 weeks along, y'all. She's 14 weeks along, and 14 weeks along in 4 days. And the doctor gives her all of the information, all the correct information now. But Mercedes is still persistent about allowing Terica to make this decision for herself as to what she wants to do about this pregnancy going forward. And I love that because clearly it shows that Patrice made Mercedes have this baby. And that's not to say that she regrets doing so, but she has a high regard for giving other people, giving her child at least decisions, the freedom of decisions over their bodies and whatnot that she was not able to have at that time. So I can't snap, but yeah. Meanwhile, Uncle Clifford and Murder find Miss Ernestine, thank God, down by the water, y'all. She's about to take a plunge into the Mississippi River. She says it's time, and, you know, she just wants to feel the water, or at minimum, bring the water to me. and she's burning up, and she kind of goes incoherent for a second, and murdered out, that's her some water, and he's like, we gotta go, we gotta get her gone, like, this is not cool. So they pick her up and whisk her away. But going back to Mercedes and Terica, they leave the clinic, they're at the pool chilling, and Mercedes like, when I tell you I screamed when she was like, what you looking at, R. Kelly, to this old man again, looking at Terica and everything. And Terica's, she's still unsure about what she wants to do, and she's seeing all these kids around her. And like I said before, Mercedes is clearly taking a different approach than what Patrice had with her. And I really, 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 really love that for them. But she's also busting out her jeans, and it's time is ticking, basically, is what Mercedes is trying to let her know, And I think one of the best things I think she said before was like, you pregnant, you don't even know that your cycle not even regular enough for you to be pregnant yet. Like, come on, girl. And she was letting her know realistic information and real facts and stuff like that without pushing her in any type of direction. And I think that was really, really important. And it was just good. It was just good. We then see Ernestine has been whisked away in the ambulance, and she says, she doesn't want to die alone. And I thought that was very, very spot on for this time frame, because that's unfortunately what a lot of individuals were dealing with when they were dealing with the vid up in the hospital. They couldn't have any visitors and stuff like that, so a lot of individuals were very, 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 very heartbreakingly dying alone. And it takes murder saying, say goodbye, Cliff, because of course Uncle Clifford wasn't trying to let her go. And I understood that. That definitely resonated with me a lot, because me and my grandmother was like this. I mean, we still are, of course, but she has since moved on. Actually, she passed away in October 2020, and we were, as close can be. So I definitely understood that for real. As I said before, Terica's busting out her jeans, and at this point, Mercedes is like, girl, okay, it's time. You got to make a decision, because there's a very small, obviously, there's a window, and she's at 14 weeks. And again, like I said before, it's evident that Terica's ability to decide is being partially blocked because of kind of the brokenness between her and Mercedes, kind of not brokenness like she was, but just every single time we saw, she was going to be, every time she would ask Mercedes something and she would give her a particular answer, it would always result in her being like, well, I'm not going to do that with my child and stuff like that. So it was almost like you could see that she was, you could just see where she was operating from. If you get me, let me know. If you get what I'm trying to put down, okay? And this is also when Mercedes luckily steps in to fill in those gaps and let her know why she was moving the way she was when she was moving, that, type of way. And Terica, she storms off, but they kind of reconcile. And what happens after that is that the next day, I'm moving a little bit ahead, but I want to just kind of sew up the loose ends with these storylines and stuff like that instead of jumping around. Mercedes and Terica, the next day, she's, it's time or whatever. And Mercedes throws her keys and she's like, oh, either Chuck or Lisa Jackson, it's time to decide, I'm cool with whatever. And we see them driving away, and she puts on her right turning signal. We see them going to Jackson, and Mercedes kind of smiles. And I think obviously that's the decision she would like to have seen her made. But I'm so glad that she didn't force her in any particular direction. And I think that this is going to spark a new, something new, a new path for them and their mother-daughter, their mother-daughter thing, their mother-daughter relationship. And the next day we see them, they're lying on the couch and she's got a heating pad. We know what happened. Obviously, they did get their TCBY. We know what happened, but they're laying on the couch and Patrice, her campaign shit comes back on the screen and Terica goes to turn it off. But she's like, don't worry about that, And she's like, she calls her mama. She always calls her Mercedes or whatever, but she's like, Mama, am I going to burn in hell? And Mercedes is like, girl, if you do, I'll be right there with you. And that's why I'm saying I think this was very necessary for them to have gone through something to this magnitude, I should say, to kind of force them to be, to hit a new level in their relationship, I guess, Meanwhile, Uncle Clifford was having a moment in the shower, but thankfully Murda is there to lift her spirits. She comes out and Murda's in there and like, Cisco, y'all. But of course, laughter quickly turns to crying. And when I say it's been a while since we saw these two get it in, but they got it in raw dogging, I was like, okay. And of course, I feel like this is going to, unfortunately, this is going to not be the last that we hear of it, because Murda's like, I want to feel you inside me. So, he went for it, okay? And I really hope, I really hope nothing comes of that. I really hope, because Uncle Clifford's like, you negative, right? And I just hope, we've clearly seen that nothing is put into the littlest details are not put into this show just for shits and giggles. So hopefully I'm wrong though. If you see what I'm getting at? But I love that for them. And they kind of, they wake up in each other's embrace, and it's clear that they know now that they need each other, especially right now, of course, with both of what they're going through. And she tells him, because he starts to open up about what happened. She's like, only when you're ready. I'm like, oh, yes. And I believe the last scene we see is with Haley dropping in on Keyshawn again. And Derek is like, who is this? And she's like, oh, that's Autumn from the club, Derek. Like, and she comes in, some Prada booties for the baby, because that's what Derek was trying to take her down to the outlets. I feel like everyone kept talking about the outlets too this episode. Did you guys catch that? Because I did. And Haley tells her a story, this underlying message basically about how she's kind of basically she's gonna sow her own seed if she don't do something about it. Meaning she could be, just what she's trying to safeguard her children and everything. She could be doing herself a disservice by continuing to stick around. And when she opens the bag, there's a cell phone in it, and Autumn's like, call me when you're ready to learn how to swim. So, like I said before, I feel like Haley, Autumn, whatever, she's gonna be the one to help get Keyshawn out of the situation, perhaps, because I don't think that, obviously, she maybe not able to do it on her own right now. So maybe this is the help that she needs. Clearly she can't rely on her family or her stepmother or nobody, I don't know what is her relationship with her mother or anything like that. But yeah, Haley might be her best bet, because she's obviously been in a similar situation and broke free of it. With the help of others though at the end. So I don't know, we'll see y'all. But I hope you guys liked my recap and review. Okay? I hope you did. And I hope you're going to like, and I hope you're going to subscribe, and I hope you're going to comment and hit that notification bell. Please and thank you. But let me know what you guys think. All right? And I will be back with the next episode, okay? All right. Bye!